I had read One Dark Window, I finished Two Twisted Crowns, and I finished Blood Over Brighthaven last night. Yes.
Dude, we should think about doing like a separate episode, like a mini episode of our podcast just on Blood Over Brighthaven with spoilers, because I just feel like I want to process it out loud.
Yeah. So
Okay.
first, let me just get Two Twisted Crowns out of the way. I liked it much better. So here's why it took me a while to read Two Twisted Crowns. I liked One Dark Window. It was fine, nothing objectionable, but it did not make me excited to go on to the next one. And so it took me a while to get in to Two Twisted Crowns. So then you said you were reading it. I was like, all right, gotta finish it. So once I got into it, I liked it so much better. And here's what I wondered. What do you think? I think the narrative that came in One Dark Window, if she had found a way to edit that down, it could have made like a part 1 of Two Twisted Crowns, and then you could have had Two Twisted Crowns and it would have been fine.
Yeah, I honestly felt like the Elsbeth, in the first book, I was like, Elsbeth's fine. And Ione really irritated me a lot. And Elm seemed like an aside, right?
Yeah.
And the main guy, I forget what his name is now.
Raven,
yeah. Was like, it felt like more there. And I thought the magic system was really cool. And I thought the way that the plot was built around the magic system was really cool too. It felt like it ended at a spot where I just didn't care. And then second one, when a lot of the reveal of Ione and what her whole rationale for what she was doing and why she was doing it was revealed, I was like, oh, I'm like way more into her now that I understand what's going on. And I just think it was in general a better book than One Dark. And like, this is a spoiler, so skip over if someone doesn't want to hear this. But I feel like the end didn't feel like everything wrapped up totally in a bow. Some people wanted it to be like, and let's really spend some time on Elsbeth and Raven at the end, and we didn't really get that.
No.
And
I think it's like, you think we're used to like the main character at the beginning of the story is the main character energy at the end of the story.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
It's like you might be the main character at the beginning, but you might also just be setting up for a change. And that's fine. And that's cool. And I thought that was well done. But if you were going in thinking you were getting the same main character energy all the way through, no.
Yeah, for sure.
So Blood Over Brighthaven.
That is a 5-star book in my opinion. The fact that it's okay, first of all, I know you mentioned this to me in a text message, but I 100% agree. The opening chapter of that book was so well executed.
I was like, I can't think of another opening chapter that sets it up like that does. Like,
and when you
emotion,
finally,
the terror, the relationship,
the stakes, right? Oh my gosh. And when I think for me, I've read Babel by R.F. Kuang, and I think there's a lot of overlap to this in terms of the magic system. But I think what's really interesting for this book in particular, because obviously with Babel, the protagonist is a minority person who is taken into this sort of white academy space, and he's navigating this reality of being a minority in these spaces, and like an immigrant in this space as well. And I'm not crapping on Babel. It's one of my favorite. I love R.F. Kuang. I'm gonna probably take a sick day when Catabasis comes out and read it because it's gonna be freaking good. I cannot wait. But this one, for a white woman, and like the way it explores like white woman energy in class oppression, and the ways that like she is both oppressed, like she can't get through into this space that is like predominantly men, and you think, oh, this is what this is going to be about. And then you realize once she breaks in, she has to make a moral choice. Is she going to perpetuate and we're in spoiler territory now, but the grand reveal of what the actual magic system is, what it is doing to other people. And then she has to make this choice. And sometimes I think as white women, we realize what we are perpetuating. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. And we actually don't understand the realities of, especially I think people in either a different economic class, but also especially like people of color and their experience. And we're like coming, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help.
Yeah.
And that's why there's so much suspicion toward white women, I think, when we like finally wake up to oppression and that we've been, ourselves have been co-opted in some really horrible ways to oppress Black men, Black women, Latinos, and that the patriarchy uses us. For me, that was like, and then watching her basically cause massive problems.
Yeah. When I was reading it, so once they started talking about sourcing, I was pretty sure I knew what the source of energy was.
I'm a real stupid reader, so I read.
Here's the thing. It's the reason I was pretty sure what it was. I have read a lot of books on magic, and I am sure that anyone who is watching this who is a practicing witch or thinks about magic will probably disagree with me. But my personal philosophy on magic is that it's essentially exploitative. It always requires a scapegoat. It is always, you always have to use something, either yourself or something else. And some magic systems make that very clear, like Wang does here in Blood Over Brighthaven, where you have to use the energy from somewhere else. And that energy is going to be other people. And that energy is going to be the life force of everything around us. And so there's another series of books that uses magic, and they talk about white witches, gray witches, and black witches. White witches are very weak because they only use what they can draw, like the energy that they can draw from themselves. Gray witches are morally a little bit suspect because they might use animals or something like that. But black witches use other people. They use human beings to power their magic. So magic is essentially a pseudoscience. It is always about cause and effect. If you do one thing here, you have a result here. And it has to be a commensurate result.
Yeah, and that was new for me. And I thought the way that she delivered I guess it wasn't new to me because I just balked over the whole period blood situation.
Even though I was pretty sure I knew what it was, it was still horrifying to read this.
When she finally is able to see, because the spoiler for everyone who's listening is they're pulling this energy and doing this to basically power their city, but they don't actually, they're sourcing this energy and they have to do these special algorithm-y, magic-y things. Coordinates, yeah. And they're figuring out, oh, there's energy source here, but what you realize is that the energy that is taking us from living things. Right. So the opening scene of the book,
other realm. They've been calling it, so you can't see it very well. They're just opening this portal into the other realm, and they're drawing from the other realm because they have this whole religious system around it that's telling them to use these coordinates. There are forbidden coordinates. And once you start getting into it, you're like, why are there forbidden coordinates?
And then you realize, oh, their city is the forbidden coordinates. And then like the heretic essentially in their history who had used the forbidden coordinates, right, had actually figured out what was going on here. And the whole opening scene of the main guy watching his whole tribe die while they're trying to get to the city and get destroyed is them using the coordinates. But like also it's like it's interesting to me, like the ways that the system itself is exploiting people outside of the city, right? It's also very punitive, though, in the sense that they have this buffer around the city that is taking people, like they don't want people to, it's not like here's the rules, but if you follow the rules, you can get in the city. It's like all of our systems that are like, here's the rules that you can get in, but we're going to make it super hard for you. And in fact, if you try, we're probably going to kill you in the process, and so don't try too much now. And then I really thought, but at the end, it turns into very similar to a spoiler for Babel, the sort of like revolution situation where you think, and I thought it was very interesting because it's very white woman coded of, oh, I think this will be a great solution. And the guy is, I don't think that's going to work.
Right.
I think room. And she's like, no, it'll be fine. And everything don't do this.
I thought that like when we were in that section, when I was reading that section where she's had the realization, she's working it out, like she's reconciled with the main male character that's been her research assistant and partner through this whole story. She's talking about like what am I going to do? Like I could let this crush me or I could fight back with this. And it's very much in that vein, as you're saying, like that white woman energy. It's very much in that vein of my eyes are now opened. I am full of righteous fury and I must do something about it. And everyone else is, yes, we know. Yes, we've been living with this.
Right.
Yes, yeah, I think we haven't tried that. Yes, yeah, you are right. But
there's the naivete. It's the naivete that, oh, when everyone else sees it, they're going to see it like I saw it. And then it's this movement into, and it's very sad when the people who took care of her, I thought that scene was incredibly moving. And she ends up in the jail. Yeah, when they come to the jail and everything, being the lower and the middle working class, right? Like it's this whole class consciousness thing where they're like, you showing us this stuff is not helpful to us, and you've ruined everything that we've worked for, because now, and it ends up the revolution, because revolution is grounded in violence, ends up pitting the powerless against the powerless, right? The powerful, many of them, and like the guys that like, remember the guys that didn't go to the big hearing, and they were gonna basically let all those guys die and then take over again. What was so moving, though, was the solution to that book. I thought it was really beautiful, was when they asked the daughter, what do you want to do? At the end of the day, if they're going to destroy the city, keep the city or whatever, he lets the next generation make the choice, because they're the ones that have to live in this reality.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, one of the most, to me, that is such a imaginative and creative and constructive way of having this conversation. Because what's happening and what's so frustrating, I think, for millennials, younger Gen X's, and certainly for Gen Z, is that a lot of decisions are being made for us. And no one's asking us what we want.
Right. No one's asking us to respond and to read the room, basically.
Well, and it's boomers that are making those decisions, and they're not going to have to live with the climate consequences, the ecological consequences, the social consequences, the relational consequences, the economic consequences. I think that's been what's most frustrating about this current moment, is I'm thinking, wow, you've just sentenced my kids to clean up a mess that you made in a few weeks that's going to take decades to clean up.
Yeah.
That's unfair. And I think that's what was so beautiful about this book, is that that was the resolution. The resolution isn't everyone lived happily ever after again. The resolution was, what do you want to do?
Right.
You have to live in this world.
Yeah. And I thought it was such a beautiful parallel that the opening and the closing chapters were running. First of all, but also running to the city that they thought was going to be safety. And now they're running away from the city to what actually is safety, because now they created conditions that mean that they can live outside of the city safely. And the whole thing was just, it was really good. Thank you for recommending it.
5-star read for me. And
5-star. Yeah.